can you see this person's perspective,
Right.
but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Going back to the beginning. Going back to the beginning. How you, Terry Pugh?
I'm well. I'm well. I missed out on our first few seconds. Where are we going back to the beginning of?
When we started this show, it was how to lift the heavy baggage and open the heavy baggage for a lighter way of living. And I had a lot of conversations this past week with a lot of different folks about carrying around the guilt luggage, carrying around stuff in your luggage, like after it's already we talk a lot on this show about when people have wronged us. And I thought it'd be really kind of cool to take responsibility to when we've wronged other people, or we've had some situations where we, in some of the rooms, some of the fellowships, it's when you're wrong, promptly admit it. But we admit it, we apologize for it, or whatever, but we carry it around with us like we never did. And what if we've wronged someone? How do we move on from that? How do we get rid of the guilt suitcase?
Well, I guess it depends on what folks, what kind of wrong it is, where the level of wrong, what level of wrong they feel it is. Accountability is one big part. One of the biggest tools is accountability of it. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see it. It's hard to be accountable for it. But accountability, and then also open dialogue. If you're in a situation that allows you to have an open dialogue with someone around your role in the accountability. And when you're taking your role in the accountability, you don't, it's spoken from an I platform, not a you. It's
Uh-huh.
well, I did this, but only because it's not
Yeah.
that. And people have to be, and dare I use the word, brave enough to be accountable and to, more importantly, forgive themselves.
That's the deal. It's forgiving yourself for something that's in your past. For me, and I'm just going to be out and open because a lot of people have been this, for whatever it was in my life. And it's not a badge of glory or anything. It's something that was deficient in me that made me have this savior complex. I'm making up for something in my life by becoming a savior of other people. And I had a huge collection of people that I tried to save. Okay, first of all, can't do that. Second of all, that was for me, not for them. And today, and what started this off today, how somebody crosses your mind and you go on Facebook and try to find them again, and you realize that they passed away.
Mm.
And it was at a friend. A lot of friends in my life have dealt with substances. I've had a lot of addicts, and in my love circle, and trying to help them and trying to save them. And ultimately, that's what took this friend's life. And it started out my day, and I thought my last encounter was one of, I can't save you.
Mm.
And I got to tell you, it's really heavy today because I couldn't save him. I couldn't help him. I couldn't do anything. He had everything going for him, and then couldn't beat the demon. And I feel bad for the last exchange. I feel bad about that, and I don't know how to let that go, Teri. And I know that there are other people who are part of our group now that have had somebody that you go, I played a role in this. How do I deal with my last interchange with someone that ultimately, you know?
Well, we have to take responsibility and ownership over the fact that we can't presume that our role is to save someone.
Right.
We can't presume that. We can play a part in their life, and we are as effective as they can allow us to be. but their journey is their journey. And I know that that's not the
Mm.
warm and fuzzy, bubbly thing that people want to hear, because we want to hear, "Oh gosh, don't beat yourself up. You did so much," and that's true too. However, there's choices and accountabilities on both parts.
Yeah.
And some people, you can want to heal or help someone to the 10th degree, but if you're wanting to help and heal and you know help someone along so that they can get better in their life, you have to understand that there's probably a lot of pre-existing trauma and wounds and hurt that was there long before you ever entered their life.
Isn't that the
And
truth? Yeah.
yeah, and you're not responsible for band-aiding or becoming a savior for them. Now, do we play roles in everyone's lives? Absolutely. We're all interchangeable. We all have connections and things that we can offer. But to solely put yourself in the position of it's my responsibility, if my last words were sweet or saucy or spicy to this person, and then they transitioned my word for passing on, then you got to look at yourself and find out why you feel the need to own their passing. Because if you have, when was the last time you talked to this person?
A year and a half ago, right before this. Yeah.
So a year and a half ago, you had final words with this person.
Mm-hmm.
They were hurtful to you. But do you think that that person sat there and gnawed on those final words for a year and a half and never had any other wounds, never had any other encounters, never had any other anything go wrong? They just sat there in a room going, that damn Devon O'Day, she said this to me,
No, I'm sure I never crossed their mind again. I'm sure that, it was probably in a drunken stupor that this particular exchange took place, because all on the internet. But, those kind of things happen, but I carried around. There's Steve Burney. Hi,
Hey,
Steve.
Steve.
And there's Elizabeth. Hello,
Hey, Elizabeth.
hello. And Joyce is with us.
Hey,
Okay. Joyce says, I did this too, Devon, trying to change addicts and alcoholics, and it's something you just can't do. It is very sad. Well, it is, but taking my role in it, sometimes I go, how I responded in a situation, out of fear and out of anger, could have been better. I know that hurt, Elizabeth says. We want to save them and can't, but we want to so desperately. Yeah. Yeah. And there's Candy. Hi, Candy.
Hi, Candy.
And there's Mona. Hello,
Hey, Mona.
hello. Let's see. They did not. My ego likes to think that I have a stronger impact than is truly realistic.
Well, here's the thing. We do like to feel like we make a difference. Everyone wants to feel like they make a difference. However, sometimes, whatever the person's, I call it a drug of choice, it can be whatever. Sometimes people are addicted to their trauma. They just cannot identify with what a life would look like outside of that.
Well, it was a really talk about a check on your system, because those particular people have a unique gift of making us feel very terminally unique in their lives. I would have sworn on a stack of Bibles that I was the only person that was ever there for that person. And then I was looking at some of the things that people were posting about this person, and had a lot of people who thought exactly the same thing. And I went, wow, that is a real gifted person that can make everybody feel like they're the only one that person has. I go, that's also a manipulative trick that I've learned that people have to get help from someone, whether it's financial so they can get more, whether it's a place to live, whether it's whatever, that sometimes that manipulation of making someone feel like they're the only one over and over and over, said I was the only one there for them. I was the only one there for them. And there were at least 20 of those. I was the only one there for them. And I went, uh-huh. Well, guess what? Here we see we were not the only ones there. That's the other thing you have to realize. Wow. When dealing with someone who is an addict or who hurts, we our part in this situation sometimes as the enabler,
Mm-hmm.
you have to face that sometimes too.
Mm-hmm. Well, we also have to look at a lot of times, depending on what our level of need is to help a particular
Mhm.
person or persons, there are times, and I'm going to go ahead and just preface this like I do with clients. This might sting. There are times that we are just determined that we're going to help this person. And our need and our abrasiveness and our intrusiveness to help them is really a deflection or projection of a need that we have to be seen, heard, valued, appreciated, or saved.
Yeah.
You know, I work with a lot of people who, enabler is one of those like, that doesn't taste good
Mhm.
coming out of my
Yeah.
mouth. But I work with a lot of folks who um, aren't even aware of what that word means. And so then when they start to see the role that they're playing in this other person's life,
Mhm.
they recognize that, you know what, they just wish somebody would do that for them. I just wish somebody would do this. Not that they're an addict or not that they have, they just, as human beings, connectivity and belonging is something that is important to all of us.
Okay, did
And
y'all get that in the suitcase? When we are trying to be the savior for someone, we are really wanting that for ourselves. In other words, we'd like somebody to save us from whatever it is, whether it's one of the emotional baggage I call guilt, depression, anger, fear, what ifs, if only, what now. Somebody save me. But we step into the savior role of what we really want for us. Oh man, that is big. Y'all, did y'all get that? This is huge. This is huge. Oh, Teri, that's one of those things that I would go if I was in a room sitting with you right now, I'd have to stop and probably you'd be handing me tissues at this point.
well,
That's when it hits you, y'all. That's
it,
that's a big deal.
it's something to see, and we all have it. There's not one of us
Mm.
that can go, I don't care how much healing we've done, how much work we've done, we will cross paths with people and there will be something lacking, we perceive as lacking in
Mhm.
them, and we have it in us, so we give it, but we also desperately need it, and we'll give away the very last thing we have in hopes that it will click and we will give more or we will get more, but we're giving to people who are also in a deficit,
Oh,
so we're pouring. And let me preface with this before I say this next sentence. This is not to say not to help people, okay?
no. Yeah,
you have to
absolutely.
know you have to know how to set boundaries. So if you're pouring and pouring and pouring all of you and all of what you have left into someone else, and you tell them, hey, there's a hole in your bucket, here's some tape, or here's a welding iron, or here's a new bucket, and they
Mhm.
go, nah, and you still consciously decide to pour all of you into them, trying to fill them up, and their bucket has, a hole in it,
Mhm.
you're going to be depleted and they're going to be depleted, and you're going to beat yourself up because you couldn't help them.
Ah, Candy says a Terryism, and Elizabeth also, that is huge. I try to give what I'd like for someone to give me. happens over and over and over. It's a very much a personality type. Joy says, I lost a lot of myself over the years trying to help my sister who struggled with alcohol. She got sober a year before she died, but ultimately I lost her anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes that's the case. Elizabeth says, addicts and alcoholics can be very manipulative. I was so good at that when I was still drinking. We, but accepting our role in something, and it's not just addiction. Sometimes it's real. I call it relationship mistakes. I mean, I don't even want to get into my relationship mistakes. I put myself out here on the chopping block a lot, but there've been a lot of those that I felt really bad on how something happened and I go, this is just not right. And so ghosting, before ghosting was a thing, I had a thing is like, this ain't working. And I just disappear. I mean, I'd pick up and move to another part of the country.
Yeah.
And what happened? And I just move, rather than have the thing. And I feel bad about some of those things. And yet I didn't have the tools then. I didn't have a Teri.
And that's the thing. Well, trust me, even Teri has her hiccups and her, her screwery. Is that even a word? Screwery. She has her screwery. Has her missteps as well. Yeah. So we're all human, and we all learn and grow, and sometimes we fall back in it, and sometimes we can pull ourselves out of it. Well, we can always pull ourselves out of it if we're willing to. But the part about forgiving yourself for the things that you've done before you even knew that you had tools to do it, that's actually one of the easiest steps, because you didn't know. Like, yeah. I mean, that's like potty training a child or a puppy. Like, do you stay mad at them forever because they have an accident? No, they're learning. So they're learning, and with enough practice, they get it. We don't have to be mad at ourselves forever for something that we didn't know how to handle,
What's the best kind of apology to make with someone? What's the best way to make amends? Because there are a lot of us have gotten to that step in our 12 or whatever. Making amends is a tough thing, because you have to do it without expecting a response of acceptance.
Right. And anyone who has been in any sort of support or step program, they have their own, there's a different way of doing it for everyone. Mm-hmm. I think that the best apology is a change of behavior, physically, or like from a step process. I think right. An action process. The best apology is a change of behavior. I also think the best way to apologize to someone is to put the power of forgiveness in their hands and be an adult about it. And what I mean by that is, it's real easy to apologize to someone that we have offended by going, I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry I said that, I'm just sorry I did that. That's a statement. That's not really an apology. Asking for forgiveness and an apology would be if I had offended you about something, mm-hmm. over something, and I came to you and I said, well, Devon, I'm just sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I always like, my favorite is, I'm sorry, my bad.
Right.
And then and then the same thing happens again. And it's like, mm-hmm. What?
Yeah. So it's like, I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry I said that. I was just upset. I hadn't slept well. I'm so sorry. I'm just sorry that happened.
Yeah.
But if I come to you and I say, Devon, I'm so sorry that happened.
With a contrite heart. Yeah.
And I hope that you can forgive me. I'm taking that flippant apology and I'm handing you, I'm not a fan of the word power, but I'm giving you that decision, that power.
Yeah.
To say, let me think about it. I need some time to think about it.
Elizabeth says, in every interaction in life, we all play a role. Nothing happens in my life that I don't have a role in. I love that.
100%.
Steve said, I love this. Awesome. Um, for me, the living amends have always been the best apology. That's exactly what we're talking about, Elizabeth. I used words all the time and they were meaningless because of my actions. Sober and with knowledge, my behavior speaks louder than my words.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
then there's the stuff that has nothing to do with substance. Some of the worst words are said between family members.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, cruel things, just like, because that's the place where they're your family. So your blood family. There's stuff. I mean, I hear it all the dadgum time. Well, I haven't spoken to my brother in 25 years. I haven't spoken to my sister, since I left home. I can't even imagine that, but it happens in families and between mothers and daughters, between fathers and sons. Oh my gosh, there's some stuff that just, that, and how do you make amends to a family member and work on making peace in a situation that has been broken for a long time?
Well, again, probably Sting, get out your back teen. You got to grow up. You got to quit being childish. You've got to be willing to either sit down together and have a conversation or resolve it within and reconcile it within yourself
Uh-huh.
and be adult about it. There are people that are in family relationships. There are people that are in romantic relationships. There are people that are in work relationships. And you have to decide when you say, I want things to be different.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show up differently. I want to own my role. You have to also get clarity from these other family members or other people. Like, what's your
Yeah.
commitment to this? Do you
Right.
want the same thing? Maybe you don't. And then you have to decide how much of your life you're going to barter away, hoping to change someone. Because if you have
Ooh.
if you have to follow someone around hoping to change them, and you're dealing off days of your life like a blackjack dealer in Vegas, you're probably going to come up on the short end of it. You're going to end up years down the road going, well, shit, here I am now, X number of ages, and they still don't love me.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't love you. It's because they don't love their self. You're
Mm-hmm.
never going to make somebody love their self or even like their self.
Mm-hmm.
So we can think we're special enough to wave our magic wand and put some of that fairy dust on people. And yes, our presence in people's lives can enrich their lives, can change their views, can as human beings, we can allow ourselves to be present and seen and heard, and that shifts people. I use a phrase all the time: "You've touched me, and I've grown." And that's something that we can do back and forth. But if we set out with a mission that someone needs to love us or like us, and we are determined that we're going to barter our life away to change that, if they're not giving us what we want, then you should probably close that door and do your own work and allow that to surface somewhere else in your life.
Diane just popped in. Hi, Diane, y'all.
Hi, Diane.
Diane and her group Girls Next Door have a new single coming out June 2nd. It's going to be really, really good. I hope you guys will check that out. Elizabeth adds, I had to make the decision to accept family members as they are and not try to force them to be who they aren't. It's okay that we don't always see eye to eye. I can still love and respect them for who they are. I love that. And Rhonda, there are a lot of people that need to grow up. Growing up and continuing to grow is important for all of us, because if we quit growing, we're just existing. That's true.
Well, it's true, and there's not one of us that can't stand to grow up a little bit. If we're if you stood in front of me today and said, "Well, I know everything. I don't have anything else to learn. I'm as grown as I'm going to be," then I would suggest you just go on and crawl in your casket. It's over. Stick a fork in you. You're done. Because if you don't have any room for growth, why are you even doing this thing called life? Like, seriously, why are we not every day, every brand new baby day, as Mary Morrison says, every brand new baby day, why are we not getting clear on what it is that we want and not, you know,
Yeah.
dealing off
I
our life.
I love this. Pack your bags. We're going on a guilt trip. How many days do we wake up and we decide to go into our day? We avoid people because of this, or we start our day and we don't do things because it reminds us of this. We do things in our lives based on the guilt suitcases that we have. And today it's just about letting that go, forgiving yourself, accepting responsibility for your role in any situation, and I always say the mistakes. And maybe they weren't mistakes. Maybe it was just a learning opportunity. That's what I think that Teri would tell me, right?
I would say it's a misstep.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a misstep. It's just a step that you took, and it's like you're driving down the interstate and you think you're supposed to get off on one exit and you miss it because you're distracted, and you
Mm-hmm.
get off on another exit and it just takes you around a different route. You can work your way back to where you're supposed to be or where you are. You can work your way back there. But, if you're not willing to shift, to turn, then you'll just keep getting further and further away from yourself.
Mm.
And the further we get from ourselves, it's incredibly challenging to get back, because then so much time passes. And that's where you talk about like the guilt trip. So much time passes, and then how many people out there are stuck in you know the 70s, stuck in the 80s, stuck in the whatevers.
Stuck in the mistakes.
Yeah, stuck in the mistakes.
Yeah, mired in it. I have to give a shout out to Emmy Sunshine. She's watching today. I love her more than lunch and jewelry. Her music is incredible, but her wisdom is far beyond her years. Emmy, I'm so glad that you're with us today. I love you, honey. Um, and follow her because she shares a lot of heart, not just through her music, but just her wisdom and how her posts are incredible. Candy says, I made up with my brother a few years ago who I didn't talk to in years because of things that happened within the family structure. Now I talk with him just about every week. Wow. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And that's so healing. And also, you
Mhm.
can make up with somebody and still not talk to them.
Oh, well, that's true.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you're mad at them. It just means that, maybe you don't talk all the time, but that thorn isn't there.
Elizabeth says, others have forgiven me for the most egregious behaviors. If they have forgiven me, it was a sure sign that I should forgive myself for those actions.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's you. And healing truly does happen. It does. It does. And we grow every day. But you know what? I always tell everybody, and one of my Devonisms, I guess I would say, is you don't get points for the weight of the guilt you carry.
Mm-mm.
Because somehow we think if we keep on hitting ourselves and beating ourselves up, somehow we're a better person because we are so sorry and we carry that. You do not get points for the weight of the guilt you carry. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help the other person. It doesn't move anybody ahead.
Right. Right. It's there's not a it's not a point system,
Mm-mm.
and as for all the work that I've been blessed to do with people who, as an end of life doula, and working, with people who are in hospice and stuff, I can tell you this: there's going to come a day for all of us. There's going to come a day for all of us where we're going to have to really look at, did we live our best life? And if we're
Mhm.
holding on to resentment, anger, guilt, they've wronged me, or I don't feel loved by them, so I'm going to keep hitting them over the head with a skillet till they love me. That's like a damn Looney Tune commercial or cartoon. Like, you're not going to make anybody love you by chasing them and by forcing them. You're not. There's
Mhm.
somebody out there to love you. Clear
Yeah.
the path for that person. you know.
Oh, that's so good. I always it's so funny and I learned this phrase and I've used it a lot. I bless you and I release you. I don't ever say that to someone, but in my prayer time, I bless you, I release you. And then letting go, because not everybody, and we've said it before, not everybody is a whole book. Sometimes they're a paragraph, sometimes they're just a sentence, and it's okay to have that. And you don't have to feel bad, because every person that I've let go because it wasn't right, or it wasn't the thing, or maybe I wasn't in a place to be ready for a relationship, or neither were they, and that's business, friendship, romance, whatever. When you let go of those situations because something wasn't right, it allows you and the other person to have room for the thing that is right.
And you can do that with family members too.
Yes, exactly.
You can do it with family members too. Just because you're born into a family and you have siblings, or parents, or whatever it is, that whatever the dynamic is, you can release people that are unable to see you, to hear you, to respect you, to love you. You can release those people. That doesn't mean you cut ties and you block them and they're dead to you. I've heard so many people go, they're dead to me, and I'm like, well, that's a bit dramatic. I mean, like, really? Like, they're not dead to you. They're still your family, But you don't have to. You don't have to barter off any more days of your life being mad about something
Right.
that happened 30 years ago. My gosh.
Yeah.
Life
We don't
is,
have to carry the anger suitcase. In other words, we can let that go.
and we can. I mean, gosh, if you want to
Yeah.
take a trip and you want to pay $60 for each one of them dang suitcases, knock yourself out. Pay your $60 for each one of those suitcases and drag them around with you and never open them up. Never open them up. But just wander and ponder over what's in there, because while you're doing that, while you're looking in your rearview mirror, the life that you're driving forward to, you're going to crash and burn it, because you're
That's
going to
right.
be focused on the back.
True that. True that. Well, we got to make things. You got another client that's waiting for you. So we're going to let everybody go. But devonoday@gmail.com to leave me a message about a future thing. And just know that I will never bring your name up for a conversation unless you put it in the comments and want to be brought into it. But if you have an idea, something's hurt you, something you're dealing with, we bring it up in these conversations and your anonymity is protected. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Teri, because you say
All
the
right.
words we need to hear.
Well, I can be found at terrypugh.com, or you can leave a message below or on Instagram. And again, we appreciate each and every one of you choosing to spend your time with us. We value you, and it's just always a joy and a pleasure to get together and just to mingle and to schmooze with such beautiful energy and people. So until we see you again next week, make conscious choices to create memorable moments, and please do your very best to increase the peace. See ya.